Positive Coping Skills for the Coming Teen Years. I know it's a long title, but I just wanted it to be descriptive. I worked for 10 years with teens, young adults, and their families and adolescents in both an inpatient setting in a psych hospital for actually 2 years, and then in an outpatient setting, which was my clinical practice for 10 years. I'm practicing, I have a small practice in Carmel Valley now, and I work very closely with families. Helping them place nannies, so I'm really immersed in the whole family thing all the time. So I wanted to say that when we were working with these groups, especially in the inpatient setting, we did lots and lots of peer groups, we did lots and lots of family groups. And what we did, we were always emphasizing the same techniques and the same coping skills to help these kids that had eating disorders, substance abuse problems, ADD, and depression. That's basically who we worked with. And some of these kids had very mild symptoms. Some had very severe symptoms. But it seemed that we were always using the same coping skills, and these were very powerful. And they helped these kids a lot. And then later when I had my own child, I thought, wouldn't it be great if parents knew these skills when their kids were really young and were instilling them now, versus waiting until somebody ran into some problems and some challenges, and then suddenly we're unlearning old behaviors, we're learning new ones, with a kid who's really having a hard time. So I know that with my own child, I really practice what I learned, and I always think to myself, well, parents should all be knowing this stuff. So that's why I wanted to give this talk. Anyway, as most parents know, every parent knows, children are born with their own temperaments, their own personalities, their own preferences. There's only so much room that we have to modify their behavior. And so what we can control is our own behavior, our own examples, the limits that we set. But I don't want to give anyone the idea, because I think that parents have too much sense of responsibility. I don't want to give anyone the idea that how your child turns out is exactly related to everything you did. And if your child has issues, I guess you screwed up. I mean, we've got to really give ourselves a break here, because obviously everyone in this room is passionately dedicated to giving their children the very best upbringing. It's obvious. So I just want to take some of that pressure off and say, I'm going to give you these ideas, but let's be real. I mean, you can be the most amazing parents in the whole world. Your kids can run into challenges. That's okay. So a few of these, this is what else I want to say. A few of these habits that I mentioned will require time and focus. Like really being present with your child requires time and focus and no cell phone. And it is tough to find that kind of time for all of us. I think we're all maxed out in time. So the thing I want to mention is, as parents, you're highly, highly influential. And a very, very small change in your behavior can have a very big impact in your family. And we tell people this in marital counseling too. A very small change in one spouse can affect the marriage profoundly. So when you come away from here, there may be one or two things that now you're aware of, that you keep in your awareness and that you want to practice. And even those one or two things, if you practice them now and then, or you're just aware of them, can still have a very big impact in your family. I don't want you to listen to this talk and think, oh my God, these are all the things I need to do, because frankly, we're doing it time. So, you hear a lot about the rebellious teen years and teenage angst being a natural, inevitable developmental phase. But honestly, in other countries, they don't really see it that way. It's in the U.S. that we think, oh my God, they're going to enter this phase where they don't want to listen to me, they rebel against me, they think I'm lame. That's really kind of an American thing. And really, if you look at the research, it's really a very small percentage of kids who go through a really tough adolescence and teenhood. So the reason I bring this up is because I hear parents sometimes saying things like, oh my God, my daughter was so impossible. She's so impossible. She's been this way for weeks. It's the teen. She's going through the teens. Oh, I just can't even be around her. I mean, I do hear this. And what concerns me there is you don't want to just chalk it up to a developmental phase, because really, you may very well be able to institute certain behaviors that will keep those lines of communication open, that'll keep the mutual respect going. You don't want to just say to yourself, oh, she's just a teenager, she drives me nuts. Which, believe me, I mean, sometimes I see this with my own daughter and I think, oh, that's that teen thing. And then I realize there are things I can do. So, It is true that as your kids enter adolescence, they will turn to their peers more than they turn to you. But if they have a really solid grounding, and if you have good, solid communication, they won't go astray. They won't be that influenced. It's just a matter of there being a lot of mutual respect between you. It makes a big difference. So now I'm going to just tell you a few statistics. Drug use among teens has decreased since 2001, so we're on the right track. But alcohol use is on the rise. Recent PTA surveys report that 75% of high school youth now drink, and more than half of those have serious alcohol problems. During the past 10 years, arrests of girls ages 18 and younger who were intoxicated by alcohol have more than tripled. Arrests of boys in that age group have jumped 2.5 times. 1/3 of all high school students admit that they drink with regularity, and only 14% abstain. In the adult population, 30% abstain. Couple more statistics. AA reports that they now have 25 groups oriented to teens under the age of 18. A year ago, there were 12 such groups. 5 years ago, there were none. Columbus Hospital in New York City has just expanded its alcohol treatment center to offer help to adolescent alcoholics. That's the first program in America. Part of that could be just raised awareness, but part of it could be that that's on the rise. So what's going on here? Alcohol use is on the rise. Some experts think it's because parents who really hit the whole drug issue in a big way, and they think that some experts say to kids, oh, well, you're just drinking, at least you're not using drugs, which, you know, is kind of understandable, but if the kids are getting that, hey, you know, it's not drugs, it's just alcohol, it's still on the rise. So we have to ask ourselves, what's going on? I mean, these kids are young, and how do we protect our kids? So we've got to look at what does the research tell us is the underlying cause of alcohol abuse. And I don't mean alcohol use. Social drinking does not mean you have a problem. But alcohol abuse, the research pretty much widely agrees for decades that people abuse alcohol out of a sense of alienation. Did you know this? Is this something that's widely known? When I learned this, I thought it was very, very interesting. And so how do we define alienation? Let me see where I was. It's a feeling of being disconnected, lonely, separate from others. One way to describe alienation is this: you don't feel at ease in any situation, any place, or with any person. You're always trying to get home, but you never feel at home. Alcohol will immediately kill the anxiety that arises from this disconnected, separate feeling. And our culture is pretty alienating, and there's more and more written about that. So as parents, we can counteract this. So the other thing is, of course, alcohol then to someone who feels alienated will be very, very addictive, because you're only going to feel connected while the alcohol is in your system. And the alcohol goes out of your system, oops, you need it back again. So that's the addictive process. So what I wanted to look at was AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is clearly proven to be the most successful program for alcohol abuse in existence. That's anywhere in the world. There are other programs, but nothing has proven to work better. So AA, which began in the 30s, knows that alienation is the issue. I mean, they've known this for a long, long time. And the whole 12-step program is designed to battle this feeling. So I thought, as parents, why don't we take a look at what AA is doing and take some of those ideas and some of those practices and plug it into our own world with our kids, and maybe they can circumvent all this stuff, even if we do have an alienating culture. Any questions? Is everybody still with me? Makes sense? So here's why AA works. And I'm not an AA member, and I'm not in recovery, but I've just worked with a lot of people who are. It provides the member with a strong sense of connection and accountability to others. Members rely on other members of the group. They have a sponsor they can turn to for advice. They share feelings on an intimate level. They celebrate milestones together. They connect to the community. They connect to a higher power so that they don't feel that the world is all on their shoulders. And they turn to each other for support. They listen to each other. Now, what does this sound like to you? It sounds like a really highly functioning family. So really, if you think about it, if these younger kids are struggling with alcohol issues and going to AA, what are they doing? They're getting themselves a really high-functioning, supportive family where there's accountability, where there's lots of sharing of feelings, where people look out for each other. And then you take a look at some of the way that we live. And I mean, we are running around. I place nannies. And families call me, and I mean, I have amazing families. But families call me, and one of the things they almost always say to me is this: we are a family on the go. And I get it. I absolutely get it. And they need a nanny to shuttle, and they say, he's here, he's there. So we have to start asking ourselves, is this providing a cohesive sense of belonging to these kids? And, you know, there's other things going on than just a family being on the go. But